Let's just hit the wiretap briefly. See, this is what used to be used, just an ordinary relay. The main drawback with this thing was this is what created the infamous click on the phone line when you connected it to the phone line. So the way they solved that problem was before they connected it to the phone line, they would wet their finger, place it on the phone line, and then slide the clip down the wet finger until it contacted the phone line, and that eliminated the click.
In the early 1950s, the CIA and SIS, Britain's secret intelligence service, more commonly known as MI6, had started one of the most ambitious telephone tapping operations of the Cold War. In Berlin, then a divided city controlled by the Allies, they discovered the main telephone lines, connecting the KGB's Berlin headquarters with Moscow, lay just 400 yards away from the border of the American sector. The only way to reach the lines was to dig a tunnel.
The total length of the tunnel from the warehouse to the actual site of the East German cables that were tapped was about 1,500 feet, actually 1,476 feet to be precise. Then the horizontal tunnel began, and it continued on until just when it got to the point where we wanted to tap the cables. And then technicians from the GPO in the UK came and actually carried out the tap, which was a very dicey business, very difficult. You needed highly skilled technicians. This could never have been done without British expertise in this area.
Hundreds of individual lines were tapped, and in May 1955, Soviet secrets began to flow through the Berlin Tunnel.
As an intelligence officer, what got me was the enormous amount of information on Soviet units, their personnel, their equipment. All of that was absolutely fantastically valuable.
But more than a year before tunneling had even begun, the KGB sent a young agent, Sergei Kondrashev, to London to meet their most valuable spy, a middle-ranking SIS officer called George Blake.
In January '54, he passed me a very important information, and that was the minutes of an Anglo-American top-secret conference between CIA and SIS on laying plans for the building of a Berlin tunnel.
In a calculated sacrifice, the KGB in Moscow decided to let the tunnel go ahead. They knew George Blake would be the prime suspect if they tried to halt the tunnel's construction. Believing the British secrets he would betray were more valuable than their own, even the KGB in Berlin were not told their telephones were to be tapped.
They couldn't take a chance of not allowing it to continue for at least a while until, quote, they accidentally ran across the trapdoor leading to the tunnel.
Unfortunately, I must admit that the American and British side have got enormous volume of a very vital information.
The tunnel operated for a year and a day before the lines finally fell silent.
And so it was decided, after consultation with George Blake, we'll open it and use it in diplomatic and propaganda purpose. Correspondents from all over the world were invited to see the tunnel, and the films were issued about this building, etc. So that was the story of the tunnel.
As the tunnel closed down, a technological revolution was about to open up a whole new range of possibilities for the eavesdropper. In the early 1960s, the introduction of a tiny electrical component, the transistor, revolutionized the world of electronics. As the world tuned into their new portable radios, the CIA were exploring new ways of tuning into the Soviets.
We were dealing with a salesperson who represented a hearing aid company. And hearing aids were coming down, down, down in size because of the advent of transistors and small batteries and small microphones. So I said to him, could you put a little amplifier right on the back of a microphone? And he came back a few weeks later and said, yeah, the factory did it. Here it is.
For the first time, the transistor made it possible for the CIA to produce tiny battery-powered transmitting bugs. Free from having to hide wire lines, suddenly, for the eavesdroppers, a whole new range of targets came within earshot.
I remember one situation where it was an official target. It was, as a matter of fact, pardon the expression, an ambassador's office. And the cleaning boy was a local national who wasn't averse to taking a little bit of money on the side. I gave him a camera and told him exactly where to stand in the room and take some pictures. He did. I printed them up and saw there's a piece of furniture here that would be ideal. It's a coffee table. There's a sofa nearby, and the ambassador's desk was 15 feet away, which is very tolerable in audio surveillance.
The next day, Glenn sent the cleaning boy back again.
Turn the table over, measure this dimension and this dimension accurately, and give me a sliver of wood from the underside. He did, and 2 days later I gave him a wood block which contained an eavesdropping transmitter with a remote control switch and battery pack. And he put it in. About 2 days later I drove by the target in my car. I had the audio output from the receiver going through the car loudspeaker so that I wouldn't go by wearing headphones and give the whole thing away. And I pushed the button and boom, on came the signal, and it was very quiet. You could hear bird sounds and a little bit of typing from down the hall, and it was the sort of thing that would bring tears to the eyes of a good eavesdropper.
Bugs could now be hidden in just about anything. Books, ornaments, cuddly toys. The KGB even hid one in the shoes of an American diplomat. And British intelligence created a listening pen.
This was created for a specific purpose, and the specific purpose was to visit somebody and leave the pen and come back for it, because what you were after was what was said in the few minutes, perhaps only a minute, after you'd left. So the pen needs only to last 2 to 3 minutes. It actually lasted about 2 to 3 hours. Inside there is the transmitting section. How much room have you got for batteries? And what size batteries are they? Tiny little things. They can't possibly last any time. So it's utterly pointless to use a device like this as a general bugging device.
Another type of specialist bug, known as the drop device, is designed to be hidden in a matter of seconds. But given time and access to the room, the hiding places for transmitting bugs are unlimited.
One of the best places is a large cavity in cavity doors, such as we have here, because you can get a whole string of batteries in with the bug, which will give it a chance to last for months, maybe even a year. Here we have a ready prepared string of batteries with the transmitter section, which also has a radio control section for remote control switching, and down into the microphone, which is concealed in the cork and actually works between the top of the door jamb and the door.
The trick is to drill through the top of the door to reach the hollow part inside.
Right, we're through to the cavity, and out she comes.
The string of batteries are then put into a lady's stocking, which, once fed into the door, is filled with polystyrene balls to ensure it doesn't rattle as the door opens and closes.
We've now got to push this down inside, get our cork in position, and there we go. Our final little touch is to add some prepared dust, which we do by usually a woman's brush there, and just brush that on the top, so that should somebody come along and run their finger along the top here, they'll find dust and think that's never been disturbed. They're usually too lazy to get up and take a proper look, so we have a nicely fitted transmitter in there which will last a year.